This is a video where I'm going to combine a couple things that I have been aware of for a long time. I think I've shown you both of these things before, and I'm going to kind of take them to the next step. This is something that I kind of discovered fairly recently, and chalk it up to one of those things. I didn't realize that I knew that or something. So anyway, if I'm in a key of C major, my G7 chord is what it is, and the 2 chord that goes with it is D minor. A D minor chord, a D minor 7 chord, is basically a D minor pentatonic scale, 1 note missing. I think you know that. That's a D minor pentatonic. This is D minor 7. Now, I know that I've shown you how if you play a D minor pentatonic scale, that fits over the D chord, the D minor chord. When the G7 chord comes along, all you really need to do is take that D minor pentatonic scale and lower the note that's the 7th. Basically, you're playing a major 6 in your minor pentatonic scale. There it is again. So I've taken out the C's, and I've put B naturals in. The B natural, of course, goes with the G7. Okay, so you know that. Okay, if you just saw an edit, it's because my brain flew out of gear, and I actually got so stumped I had to stop recording. That's the pentatonic stuff. Now, one of the things that I think I've shown you that is really common that we associate with blues and rock playing is this idea over a pentatonic scale. That blue note, as most people call it. Now, one of the things that I've noticed, and this is another thing I think I've shared with you, Pat Martino was fond of putting those notes into lines. He would do that over a minor line, a D minor line that's going toward C. A lot of times it wouldn't be that blatant. He might put the minor scale itself, or the minor-ish scale, Dorian, and then add the blue note. So, very common. You hear George Benson do that a lot too. Now, interestingly enough, that minor pentatonic, that blues idea, thinking in terms of the key of C major, that's the 5th note of C major, flat 6, yeah, what a surprise, and there's 6. So, that is the thing that we've sort of gone through ad nauseum, that flat 6 scale degree and how it fits in. I think I showed you some things about harmonizing a scale using the flat 6 scale degree as a passing tone between 5 and 6. So you wound up harmonizing a major scale with a major chord built on 1 with an added 6, C major 6. So it's this, and then the next chord in the series would be a fully diminished, and the reason why is because when you build the D, F, A, C, but you use the next note up from G, when you're harmonizing that, a half step above G is the A flat, so our D minor 7 chord becomes D fully diminished. So the A that was in C has now moved to B, and the G that was in C has moved to A flat. Then the next chord was C major with the 6th intact. It's actually right here. Then the next chord was fully diminished again. Then the next chord was C major with the 6th intact again, right here, and so on. So there was a way that we dealt with harmonizing that scale. So the C major scale with the added A flat in it just sounds like this. looked at melodic implications of that. So, one of the things that I thought was, well, we're adding that to the minor chord, we add it to the major 1 chord. Can we just add that note to the 5/7 chord as a passing tone? And we can. The problem with it is it's a half step above the starting note of this group of notes that is C major. When we begin that group of notes on G, the first move is from G to A flat to A. So if you think metrically again, the way we did in Bebop, where we were trying to create these melodic lines with scale tones on beats. The problem is the A flat needs to be on a beat, not the G. F on a beat, A flat on a beat, A natural on the upbeat, and then B natural on the next beat. So we've got F, A flat, B natural, D, F, A flat, and so on. So our scale is basically the same group of notes. It's C major with an A flat in between A and G, or in between G and A, depending on which direction you go. And so that chromatic passage substitutes for the chromatic passage we did. For a long time we looked at this, which is the root of our 5 chord, a passing tone between the root and the 7th of our 5 chord to the 7th of the 5 chord. And we did a lot of exercises based on that. So what I've kind of done is revamp some of those ideas. I go back up here to this position, the D minor spot, and if I play the scale with the A flat intact, the scale sounds like this. Now, I kind of like doing that. I like going up to that flat 9 note. The A flat is obviously a flat 9 relative to our G chord. So again, I'm playing kind of in a D minor area and over a D minor shape, but again, we're thinking G7. So I can now put the same kinds of twists and turns into my lines. One of the ones that I think I pointed out that Pat Martino liked was when he would land on the 7, he would do that to it. Now the 7 is always on a beat, the 7th of the G7 chord. It's always on a beat, so if we go, if we're descending to it, you're basically playing that little turn. And what you're doing is when you land on the 7th, you go down, you skip over the 6th. So you're actually playing, now again, relative to the G7 chord. I'm playing 7, 5, that's the 13, back to the root, then down to the 7. So against G7, 7, 5, 13, root, 7. If I do it on the way up, so it's the same kind of treatment for this that you did with the Bebop scale that was more of the traditional one that I think I introduced to you a few years ago, where we put the passing tone between the root and the 7th of our 5 chord. You can do the same kinds of things. So as long as you move in stepwise motion, regardless of which direction, and it doesn't matter where you change directions, all of the chord tones, and now we're including the flat 9, the A flat, as a chord tone. So our chord tones for the 5/7 are now A flat, not G, B natural, D, and F. A flat, B, D, F. That's a fully diminished 7 chord. So our lines, no matter what direction we go, will sound like this. So it's an interesting idea, and it works really well. Now, whenever you try to start your line on the root of the 5 chord, it gets messy. And the reason why is because you want to start on the root of the 5 chord, which is not part of the structure now, because we've thrown out the root in favor of the flat 9. So there are ways to deal with that. One of them that I kind of like is to just start. I'm going to start right here on G now, and my 5 chord is right here, and I can just play G. Now that puts everything in the right place: root, 3rd, 5th, flat 7 of my G7 chord. Now if I go on up and I put the A flat there, it's now on a beat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. So that works. So we're kind of anchoring that group of notes from the root G, but when we get to the next octave, we go ahead and add the A flat. And that kind of makes it work. So we could do the same thing by not starting on the G, but just starting on A flat. And now our scale is... So you put an A flat on the bottom, you put an A flat on the top, you put an A flat only on top. You know, it's a dealer's choice. So anyway, that was just something that I thought was kind of interesting. That I just like the sound of that flat 9 against the 5 chord. I think it sounds bluesier and cooler than just that bebop line that we've looked at and we kind of beat to death a few years ago. So anyway, you might mess with that a little bit too.